was standing in his place again. There are 8 children that are deceased. I can't be strong for you. I think about the mother and what this family has lost. I think about this community and what this community has lost. And I don't have the words to give you, and I'm sorry. Because how do we get through this? How do we get to the next level? It is real, and this is raw, and these are the tragedies when there are domestic violence or domestic disturbances in our community.
I'm never going to get to throw the football with him again. I'm never going to get to hear him say, "Daddy, can I get this bag of chips?" I'm never going to hear my nieces say, "Gunkle, can I get a nana? Gunkle, you going to work? Gunkle, are you okay?" I'm never going to hear that again.
Now at 6 o'clock tonight, just an absolutely heartbreaking scene. Shreveport in a state of shock after a deadly domestic violence act that ends with 8 kids dead, 3 mothers grieving, and a community trying to find solutions to a problem now plaguing this city. That is where we begin this Monday night on the news at 6. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jonathan McCall. Tonight, we continue to learn new details about the investigation into yesterday morning's mass shooting in Shreveport's Cedar Grove neighborhood. Here's what we know so far. Sunday morning, Shreveport police say Shamar Elkins shot and killed 8 kids at a home near West 79th Street and Linwood Avenue. 7 of those children were his very own. An 8th child killed the cousin of those children. Police say Elkins also shot his wife and a woman who is also the mother of his other children. They continue to recover from their injuries tonight. After the shooting, investigators say Elkins carjacked an SUV, then drove to a Bossier City home where he died in a confrontation with police. Tonight, Shreveport city leaders calling this act one of the worst tragedies in the city's history.
It was Easter Sunday. A father stood outside a church with his 7 children, all dressed up, all smiling. He posted the photo himself. The caption read, "First time going to Mass with all my kids." The very next evening, he took his eldest daughter out, just the 2 of them, a father-daughter date. He posted that too. Proud, happy. At least that's what it looked like. But less than 48 hours after that church photo was taken, 8 children were dead, shot in their own home, in their own beds, while they slept. And the man who pulled the trigger? The same man smiling in those photos. Now here's the question that will haunt you for the rest of this video. What was really going on behind that smile? Because what this man did in the early hours of that Sunday morning was so brutal, so calculated, that even seasoned police officers were left speechless at the scene. And the most disturbing part? There were signs. Signs that a system failed were ignored. Signs that a system failed to act on. And 8 children paid the price with their lives. If you've ever questioned whether domestic violence can truly spiral into something this catastrophic, stay with me until the very end, because this story will completely change the way you look at the warning signs hiding in plain sight. This is the Shamar Elkins case. Welcome to Homicide Exposed, where we tell the stories that demand to be heard, the cases that expose the cracks in a system that is supposed to protect the most vulnerable among us, the victims who deserve better, the families still waiting for real answers. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on your notification bell so you never miss a story like this one. So who exactly was Shamar Elkins? On the surface, he looked like someone you could respect. He grew up in Shreveport, Louisiana, a mid-sized city in the northwest corner of the state, known for its tight-knit communities and strong military ties. Elkins leaned into that military culture early. In 2013, at a young age, he enlisted in the Louisiana National Guard. He served for 7 years. His roles weren't small either. He worked as a signal support system specialist, the kind of person responsible for keeping military communications running smoothly. He also served as a fire support specialist, a role that requires discipline, precision, and the ability to stay calm under pressure. 7 years of service, a uniform, a title, a sense of purpose. From the outside, Shamar Elkins looked like a man who had his life together, but that image had cracks in it, and those cracks showed up early. In 2016, Elkins was convicted of driving while intoxicated. It wasn't a headline-grabbing offense, but it was a red flag. A man trained to exercise control and discipline, making reckless decisions behind the wheel. Then came 2019, and this one is harder to brush aside. Elkins fired 5 rounds at a speeding car near a Shreveport high school. Children could have been in that area. People could have died that day. He pleaded guilty to illegal use of a weapon, a felony charge. His punishment? Just 18 months of probation, no prison time, no firearm removal, no serious consequences. And that raises a question that has no good answer. How does a convicted felon walk away from a weapons charge and still end up with a gun years later? That question matters, because that gun would later be used to kill 8 children. Behind the uniform, behind the military titles, behind the church photos, was a man with a dangerous temper, a growing criminal record, and a home life that was about to explode. Now, to understand what happened that morning, you have to understand the world Shamar Elkins had built around himself. He had 2 women in his life, a wife and a girlfriend, 2 separate households, 2 separate relationships, and between both women, 7 children who called him Dad. With his wife, he had 4 children, Soraya Snow, 11, his eldest daughter. The same little girl he had taken on that father-daughter date just hours before the shooting. Kadarian Snow, 6 Braylon Snow, 5 and 1 other young child. With his girlfriend, he had 3 more children, Jayla Elkins, 3, the youngest of all his kids. Shayla Elkins, 5 and 1 other child. 7 children, all young, all innocent, all completely dependent on the adults in their lives to keep them safe. Then there was the 8th child, Marcaden Pugh, 10 years old. Marcaden was not Elkins' son. He was his nephew, a child who simply happened to be there that night, a child caught in the middle of something that had nothing to do with him. A cousin of one of the surviving women, Crystal Brown, spoke to reporters after the tragedy. She described all the children in one simple, heartbreaking sentence. Happy kids, very friendly, very sweet. 8 children, all described that way, all gone. Now here's where the tension really begins to build. Elkins and his wife were not in a good place. Their marriage was falling apart, and things had gotten serious enough that legal proceedings had already begun. They were due in court on Monday, April 20th, the very next morning after the shooting, to deal with their separation. According to Crystal Brown, the two had been arguing about their relationship in the hours leading up to the attack. The conversation got heated, and for Shamar Elkins, something about that argument, about losing his wife, about that court date looming the next morning, pushed him to a place of no return. 2 women, 7 children, 1 nephew in the wrong place at the wrong time, and a man who was about to make the most devastating decision of his life. On the surface, he still posted the photos. He still showed up for church. He still took his daughter on dates. But underneath all of that, the pressure was building fast, and nobody stopped it. If you had looked at Shamar Elkins' social media in the days before April 19th, you would have seen nothing alarming. What you would have seen was a father. On Easter Sunday, he took all 7 of his children to church. He dressed them up, lined them up, and posted the photo for everyone to see. His caption was simple and warm. First time going to Mass with all my kids. 7 children, 1 proud father. A moment that looked like a turning point, like a man choosing family, choosing faith, choosing to do better. Then on Saturday evening, in the night before the shooting, he took his eldest daughter, 11-year-old Soraya, out for a one-on-one date. Just the 2 of them. He posted that photo too, captioning it, Lil One-on-One Date. A father and his little girl, smiling, together. Those 2 posts would become the most heartbreaking pieces of evidence in this entire story. Because within hours of that dinner, Soraya was dead. and so were her 6 siblings and her cousin. But while those photos were being liked and shared online, something very different was happening behind closed doors. The argument with his wife was escalating. The separation was no longer just a conversation. It was becoming a legal reality. Court was scheduled for Monday morning. Papers were being filed. His family, as he knew it, was being taken away from him. For a man like Elkins, someone who had built his identity around being a soldier, a father, a provider, losing that family unit wasn't just painful. It felt like losing everything. And when some people feel like they have nothing left to lose, they stop caring about the consequences of what they do next. By 5:59 a.m. on Sunday, April 19th, whatever remained of Shamar Elkins, the father, the soldier, the man, was completely gone. What picked up that gun was something else entirely. It was still dark outside. Most of Shreveport was asleep. It was early Sunday morning, just before 6 a.m., the kind of quiet that belongs to a city that has no idea what's about to happen. But inside a home on the 300 block of West 79th Street, something had already gone terribly wrong. Or the argument between Elkins and his wife had reached its breaking point. We don't know exactly what was said. We don't know which word, which sentence, which moment pushed him over the edge. What we do know is what happened next. Elkins raised his weapon and shot his wife in the face. She survived, but only barely. Then he turned his attention to the children. 8 kids were in that home. Most of them were asleep in their beds, completely unaware, completely defenseless. They never had a chance to run. They never had a chance to fight back. Shreveport Police spokesman Christopher Bordelon confirmed to NBC News that most of the children were shot in the head while they slept. Execution style, in their own home, in their own beds. But not every child stayed still. Some of them woke up. Some of them ran. So in the chaos and the terror of that morning, a few children tried desperately to escape. One made it to the roof of the house and was shot and killed there, trying to get away. Another child, a 12-year-old girl, also made it to the roof. She looked down, she looked behind her, and she made a split-second decision. She jumped, she hit the ground, broke her leg, and survived. That jump saved her life. It was also that brave young girl who made the first 911 call, or was connected to it, reporting that a man inside had shot people and that she had escaped through the roof. The dispatcher's phone lines were about to get very busy. Elkins wasn't done. He left West 79th Street and moved to a second home on Harrison Street, where his girlfriend lived with their 3 children together. He shot her too. She managed to call 911 herself by telling dispatchers that her boyfriend had shot her and that he had taken her 3 children with him when he left. 2 homes, 2 women shot, 8 children dead, and Shamar Elkins was still moving. Elkins needed to get away fast. Near the intersection of West 79th Street and Linwood Avenue, he approached a man and carjacked his vehicle at gunpoint, forcing the man out and taking off in the stolen car. Police were already responding to the 911 calls. Units picked up his trail and pursued him out of Caddo Parish and into the next parish over. The chase didn't last long. Shortly before 6:30 a.m., officers located Elkins and moved in. What followed was an exchange of gunfire between Elkins and law enforcement. At 7:03 a.m., just over 1 hour after the first 911 call, Shamar Elkins was declared dead. Whether he was killed by police bullets or took his own life in those final moments remains unclear. Investigators have not yet released a definitive cause of death. In just over 60 minutes, 10 people had been shot. 8 children were dead. 2 mothers were fighting for their lives in hospital. And a community that woke up that morning thinking it was just another Sunday would never be the same again. This was the deadliest mass shooting in the United States since January 2024. And it didn't happen in a war zone. It didn't happen on a street corner. It happened in a home, the one place children are supposed to be safest. Let me ask you something, and I genuinely want to know your answer. What do you think drove a father to this point? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. When the sun came up over Shreveport that Sunday morning, The full weight of what had happened began to settle in. The Caddo Parish Coroner's Office had a devastating job to do. One by one, the bodies of 8 children were formally identified. Not by investigators, not by records, but by their mothers. 2 women, both fighting for their own lives in hospital beds, had to confirm that their children were gone. Let that sink in for a moment. These are the children that were taken that morning. Soraya Snow, 11 years old, the eldest. The girl who had dinner with her father just hours before he killed her. Marcaden Pugh, 10 years old, the nephew. The child who had no part in any of this, simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Layla Pugh, 7 years old. Kayla Pugh, 6 years old. Kadarian Snow, 6 years old. Shamar Elkins, 5 years old. Braylon Snow, 5 years old. Jayla Elkins, 3 years old. The youngest, just 3 years old. 5 girls, 3 boys. The oldest was 11. The youngest had barely learned to speak in full sentences. Crystal Brown called them happy kids, very friendly, very sweet. And that is exactly how they should be remembered. Both of their mothers remained in critical condition following the attack. One shot in the face, the other shot at her own home. They survived, but the road ahead for both women is unimaginably painful. Shreveport was in mourning, a city grieving not just the loss of 8 children, but grieving the failure that allowed it to happen. Because Shreveport Police Chief Wayne Smith said something in his statement that stopped people cold. He confirmed that the domestic dispute between Elkins and his wife was, in his words, not the first time. Not the first time. That means there were prior incidents. There were moments before April 19th where someone could have stepped in, where the system could have acted, where those children could have been protected, but nothing happened. And 8 children paid for that silence with their lives. 8 funerals, 2 mothers in critical care, and an entire community left asking the same painful question: could this have been stopped? This did not come out of nowhere. That is the hardest truth about this case, because when you line up everything that was known about Shamar Elkins before April 19th, the picture is deeply troubling. The police chief told us there were prior incidents. Chief Wayne Smith confirmed that the domestic situation between Elkins and his wife was not the first time. That means at some point before that Sunday morning, something happened in that household that was serious enough to be known. Yet those children remained in that environment. No meaningful intervention, no protection put in place. His felony conviction should have cost him his gun. Federal law is clear. A convicted felon cannot legally own or possess a firearm. Elkins pleaded guilty to illegal use of a weapon in 2019. That conviction should have triggered an immediate removal of his firearm rights. It didn't. Or if it did, nobody enforced it. And that assault pistol he carried on April 19th is proof that the system looked the other way. The separation was the trigger. Experts who study domestic violence consistently point to one truth. The most dangerous period for a victim is when they decide to leave. Not before, not after. The moment of leaving. Elkins had a court date the very next morning. His family was being legally taken from him. For a man already prone to violence, that was the match that lit everything. His social media was a mask. The church photo, the father-daughter date. Those posts weren't just memories. They were a performance. A man showing the world a version of himself that no longer matched what was happening behind closed doors. Public smiles, private rage. His military service left unanswered questions, 7 years in the National Guard, and no public record of him receiving adequate support after leaving in 2020. Anger, loss of identity, and emotional struggles after military service are well documented. Nobody appeared to be checking on Shamar Elkins. This was not random. This was not sudden. This was a legal system, a social system, and a support system, all failing at the exact same time, and 8 children paid the price. We started this story with a photo, a father, 7 children, outside a church on Easter Sunday, smiling, and the night before it all ended, he took his eldest daughter, Soraya, out for dinner, just the 2 of them. He posted the photo. He seemed happy. She seemed happy. The night before, he was her father. By morning, he was her killer. Before we close, I want to say their names one more time because they deserve to be remembered. Soraya, Markaden, Layla, Kayla, Kadarian, Shayla, Braylon, Jayla, 8 children. And none of them older than 11, all of them gone. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something, please like this video and share it for these children. They no longer have a voice, but you do. Subscribe if you haven't already. Every subscriber tells the algorithm that these stories matter, that these lives matter. Until then, stay safe, look out for each other, and never ignore the signs.